Scott Phaydavong was born in Des Moines, Iowa, to parents who had recently immigrated from Laos as refugees after that country's civil war. Scott played running back at Des Moines East High School and went on to rush for over 5,000 yards at Drake University. He became the first known Lao American to play professional football when in 2009 he signed with the German football league's Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns. While Scott's football stats are impressive, he's quick to give credit to his older brothers who broke down the cultural barriers in the Phaydavong house so that he could pursue his passion. In addition to Scott, we'll be talking to his brother, Army veteran and personal trainer, KP Phaydavong. Scott remains active in football and is currently an assistant coach with the 2021 Iowa High School State Champion Southeast Polk Rams.
All right, hey, welcome everybody to another podcast of C4. C4, Southeast Asian Athlete Achievement Through Adversity. It was created with my co-host, John Messina. John came to me last fall and had the idea of creating a Lao American Sports Hall of Fame to kind of showcase Asian athletes, predominantly Laotian athletes, to tell their success story, to let the world know that we do exist. You know, it's funny because when everybody's achievements came on in, like Scott, I never knew about you. You know, I followed football, but I didn't know you are the first known professional football player from Laos. We have a professional bull rider. We have a professional skateboarder. We have Olympic athletes or athletes or swimmers that are trying, to go on to the Olympics. So that's like, it was like wow to me, because when you think of Laos, you think of the small little country, and there's music, there's food, and there's drink, right? That's like the three things that you would think. We love our music, and we love eating good food. We love spending time with family and friends, and we're drinking. But we don't hear too much about the athletic community. I remember when I started, and I was a small little skinny kid, and I said to my mom, hey, I said to my parents, I want to be a bodybuilder. They laughed, and they're like, there's no way. I mean, not only did they say no, but they laughed at me, and they're like, you can't do it. You want to be like this guy, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's 6'4", 250 pounds, and then you're barely 100 pounds right now. How is that going to happen? How can that be? Why don't you set your goals? Set on something that is attainable. Education is great, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. I just feel like we're all individuals and we all have our gifts, and sometimes we are the ones that we can do a little something different, something inspirational. So, right there, like I was, very excited to do the Sports Hall of Fame and to induct everybody this year. But then I thought, I remember growing up as a bodybuilder and being very successful. And people would just come up and say to me, man, you're great, man. You're awesome. You're such an inspiration. And I wish I could be like you. And it to me, like, it kind of like confused me. It's kind of like, yeah, but you don't know my story. I mean, you don't know. You think I just woke up one day and I got all these muscles. I had a lot of like hills to hills and mountains to overcome. And I think that's what's special is as we started to get to know the athletes that were being inducted, we started to hear a little bit about their stories. And now, like, I want to hear a lot more. I want to hear the whole story, because that's me. That's inspiration. That gives hope, right? I mean, let's say you got two wealthy men, okay? And one guy was a self-made millionaire. He came from very humble beginnings, and he worked his butt off and created a business and became this multi-millionaire. That to me is a success story. That to me, I can relate to. It's inspirational. You got another guy, he's rich because his dad's rich and his granddad's rich, and it's just passed on. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, as a person, I can't relate to, I can't be inspired by that. And I want to be inspired, and our job too is, now that we're here, Scott, KP, we it's our duty to inspire this younger generation, give them hope, because Scott, you're the first pro football player. Now there's a bunch on the college scene right now that are going to go for hopefully go to the NFL within a year or two. That's pretty awesome to see. That's awesome to see. And we watch some of the bowl games, and you see when Utah and Oregon State went out, to see two Laotian last names on those jerseys. That was really cool. So that that is why this podcast is very special to me, and I just kind of want to be able to have this as a platform for us, Laotian, Southeast Asian athletes to come together and share our stories and give inspiration and hope to the future. So with that, I'm gonna pass it on to my co-host John.
Yeah, and Scott, when we inducted you into the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame, we originally went at it approaching the thing really from the athletic accomplishments, but your interview and everybody else's interviews that we did, we really realized that there was much more. And with yours in particular, it wasn't just a story about an individual athlete. It was really a story about a family, a family coming from another country after a war, rebuilding their lives from scratch in America. And one of the big parts of your story was that without your older brothers breaking down those barriers and kind of, opening your parents' eyes to a new culture, football in particular, right? Not a sport in Laos. They don't know what it is. Your older brothers had to kind of pave the way a bit so that the great Scott Phaydavong could go on to play professionally. And that's KP. That's why we decided to invite you on. You have a great story with your service in the Army. But also we know that Scott probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you and the other older brothers, for sure. So we wanted to make this kind of a family story here. So we're going to start with that. We'll start with you, KP, as the older brother. Tell us a little bit about your parents' life in Laos and their journey to America and how they got here.
My dad, Scott Phaydavong, he pronounced it in English. I pronounce it Phaydavong. It's easier. And he's from Pukset province of Champasak. And my mom was from northern Laos, Long Prabang. And my dad was his high school. He went to the high school level, and after high school, he went to join the Army. His dad was in the Army too. A little backstory. I know Scott's put the video on because it's more in depth. That my grandpa was in the Lao Army too, and he fought for the Lao independence, French. Back then, France ruled all of Southeast Asia. So he fought, and because of his injuries in the war, he had surgery. And then because of the surgery, he passed away. Because, it's Laos, the medical care was not the best. And he had a sister and 3 brothers. And my mom from Long Prabang was, younger. She went to school as a teacher. She's a family of 13. But down to 10, a couple, in Laos back in the days too. A couple passed away here and there, even on my dad's side. But my dad back to my dad. He went to school in France during when he joined the Free Lao Army now, not the communists. And educated man for 3 years. He's a communications officer, and learned how to speak fluent French. But became he trained other officers in communications. And after 3 years, he went back to Laos to be a trainer back in Laos. But of course, the trickling effect of the Vietnam War, we all know what happened. The communists, while America was in the Vietnam War to deter communist aggression or the spread of communism. That was our enemy back in the days, right? And when the communists took over Vietnam, it was a trickling effect. What happened? The sympathizers, the Lao communists, came over and took over Laos, Free Lao Army. We already know what happened in Cambodia too with the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot. Sad story, genocide. Yes. But my dad had to go to he was pretty much a prisoner of war. And that thing, in Vietnam, they had educational camps. But I know in the Vietnam War, it was more in depth. Like that was Cambodia. If you were educated or had any smarts, or they would murder you. But at least my dad, thank God, of course, he would be here, was in a re-education camp to re-educate to get become a Lao communist fight as an officer, or just become the communist community, because it's a whole different lifestyle from being free. We know that from usually Russia and China, But North Korea is like only the real true communist regime nowadays. North Korea, that's another story. But my dad, he he played the game to survive. You know what I mean? He's like, oh yeah, I'm with y'all. I'm a communist now. But in the storyline, like the video Scott made, it was a great documentary. With my parents, waiting for my grandchildren to watch later on, and great grandchildren to pass her name now. Said he had hearing problems, so he had to get checked up by, of course, the communist doctors, and get checked up his hearing. And his job was like to get wood or chop bamboo for the for the communist regime, because he was working for the communist government. And he said he was re-educated to become a communist, and he had a friend that lived right across the Mekong. This is in Vientiane at that time. It was an education camp. We all know when the Mekong River separates Laos and Thailand. So he said, he made that decision because, oh yeah, I forgot to bring up he was married prior to my mom. He met my mom. His first wife, I had a half brother and half sister, Colin Noy's my sister. The sad part is when he was in the re-education camp, the mom gave birth to my half sister. She passed away. There was no doctor. You know what I mean? So it's a sad story. Yeah. But my brothers and sisters are doing good. One, the brothers in Ypsilanti, Michigan. The other sister lives in Louisiana, in Broussard. But yeah, my dad played the game like, oh, my hearing's messed up. I need to get checked up, and then I'm good to go. And then he's like, I had to go see he had a friend hook him up that lived by the river, and he's like, I'm gonna make it go. So his buddy said, I'm gonna look out for you. Because, everybody wanted to be lost at that time. No one wanted to live in the damn communist regime. You know what I mean? Everyone wants a better life. We already know what communist regime, and the stories of they killing millions of people getting killed in China and all that stuff. I thank that my parents to this day, my dad for doing this. Because, who knows if I grew up in communist Laos, who knows, the opportunities. But anyways, he made it. His friend said he had like a plastic jug of, like a water jug or something. And he said, in the Mekong rivers, the currents are crazy. And he said he made to go for it. His friend was watching out for him, for the police, the communist police. Because you already know if he got caught, they would have killed him. Shoot him dead outside, you know what I mean? Who knows if me and Scott would even be here. It's a crazy story. So he jumped in the river and he looked at the fishing boats and he made it go and swam and used the floating device. Who knows if he didn't even have the plastic floating device, he probably would have made it. Because, the currents in that Mekong River, you've seen the videos. He said it was flooding season too. So, it was extra big and long. And he said it was like a dream. And he made it across. And he thanked God to this day that he made it. And of course, he's an immigrant. Just like, what we're dealing now with the Mexican-U.S. border. He had to go to jail, because he's a prisoner of war, in the re-education. He had no money for immigration paperwork and to pay off the fees to become, to get in Thailand. So about a month after in the jail, he was let go to the Thai refugee camp. Thankfully, where he met my mom. Funny story, get into it. She had, her uncle that was like Chinese bloodline too, was helping her out because back to my mom, she had money, teaching and all that, and she paid. She had the easier route. It is what it is, right? To get to the Thai refugee camp. She paid some money. Money talks anywhere, and they had a boat ready for her. And I guess 5 other friends were supposed to go with her. They got scared, got cold feet, and she was the only one who made it across. Didn't have to swim like my dad, at least on the floating device, but made it across on the boat and got to the Thai refugee camp the easy way. And probably had to, she had the money, so you had to be a month in jail like my dad, the hard way. So she, Laotian leading hustlers, business owners, and all that, had a fun coffee shop at the camp. People get hungry and want a snack, and everybody, all Asian folks, especially Laotian, we love pho. But anyways, yeah, she was, selling. She's a pretty young Laotian girl. And my dad's 2 friends were admiring her. Right? Oh yeah, you need to check her out. Pretty Laotian girl, little call. And then I guess they met my dad's 2 friends. They're all older. My dad's of course older than my mom too. And she didn't like them because they talk too much. So met my dad. Oh, my dad was totally opposite, quiet. And already know, uncle had to approve. The Chinese uncle had to approve it. Said nope, not the 2 guys. They talk too much. Our dad, who he had, he's a widow. He lost his wife. He's he's a good guy. He's quiet. Pick that guy because in a Thai refugee camp, you had like shady security guards, Thai army soldiers, like trying to hit on, they're married kids, it is what the situation. So she said, "Hey, made the decision. Let's get married." So best decision she made, thank God, for me and the family, right? So they got married and made a little, ceremony in the camp. So my dad had connections. It's all about networking. And I learned today from coming up in my Army days. They had Christian sponsors that wanted to help. That's how a lot of us came to America. It's the same story. I've been reading a lot, hearing story a lot with a lot of Laotian communities, even my time in the Army. Even I haven't met that much Laotians in the Army, but it's always similar stories with the fleeing the communists. They don't want to live in the communist regime. Yeah? So they had Cindy and Reed and Cindy Strand, Des Moines Fellowship Church. They were trying to, a lot of them, Christian sponsors wanted to help refugees at the time come to America. And my dad had a hookup from his friend. And I know my dad, he said the storyline, he didn't say in the video, but he told me when I was younger, said he had a choice between Texas or Iowa. My dad being an educated man, he knows the big cities, high risk of, like Dallas, Houston, where we know there's a lot of Laotian community in Dallas, Fort Worth area and all that. Houston, San Antonio, higher crime rate, more bad influences for the kids. You know what I mean? It is what it is at that time. And then he said, "Oh, Des Moines, Iowa, quiet, Midwest snow." You know what I mean? I mean, everybody didn't know it would be that cold. Come from a tropical country, Laos and Thailand. So that was Reed and Cindy Strand from the Des Moines Fellowship Church. Thank God helped us fly my parents out of the refugee camp, sponsored them to Des Moines, Iowa, which I know you guys are from the Illinois area. Chicago was probably another hub, but Des Moines was always known for, even to this day, to accept refugees from war-torn countries, from Bosnia, Kosovo. I remember back in the days when I graduated high school in '98, to the African countries that had all the issues. Yeah, so that's a good thing I appreciate about Des Moines, Iowa, the real open arms for the refugees back in the days. We had a lot of influx at that time. Growing up, I was born in 1980 in Des Moines, Iowa, but a lot of Cambodian, Vietnamese, Thai community, Phaydavong, of course, in Des Moines. But back to my mom, when she flew in, she was pregnant with my brother 8 months. Lucky she was small and petite, because they said they wouldn't know she was pregnant. She would never flew out. So my older brother, Kai Pot, we call him Pot for short, or he likes Jonathan. We go by and just call him Jonathan. Was pregnant 8 months. So they got it. Like I said, when my parents got to America, they didn't speak a lick of English. My mom said she had to go to Des Moines Area Community College, DMAC for short. They lived in it was the ghetto in downtown Des Moines, and walk in the snow and the blizzards to go to ESL and use second language. All she knew was this funny story when she was in church. If anybody.
KP, real quick, what year is this when you guys got to Des Moines?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I know there's a lot of information. 1978, yeah. My parents flew.
78. Okay.
Yeah, that's like a lot of times I noticed that around the late 70s, I noticed a lot of Laotians. Fleeing the refugee camps. So, like I said, back to my mom, this week, my dad just say no for everything. It was that bad. She didn't know. Are you pregnant? No. Are you married to him? No. And in the video, it's funny. But, of course, you got to learn English. My dad, he's educated man, went to school. Ohio State, he was an electrical engineer. My mom worked two jobs growing up. Of course, I was born in 1980. My other brother was he was born in 78. Scott came along in 84, and my other brother, Kenny, came along in 85. But like I said, who knows? I thank my dad today, because I know he's proud of me doing this interview, because I want to tell his story. And a lot of people I talk to, even my Army days, even my personal training days now, they said, "Man, your dad should write a book." And I appreciate y'all for interviewing. I'm just humbled you put me in the interview, because Scott's the damn Hall of Fame football star. You know what I mean? But I'm a proud Army veteran. Like I said, I appreciate. Like I said, you probably did look up to me. So back to the question, like when he started looking up to me, like he put that story in the interview, the first interview with y'all. Like my freshman year, I was playing football. I was running back. Of course, my parents didn't support me. I mean, I played basketball, ran track in the middle school, but I'm gonna play football. I was a running back. I was one of the fastest kids on the team. So we do a tackling drill, and my dumb butt didn't get low. And it was a starting quarterback, and it was 2 days hot as hell, and in the Midwest, hot and humid. And we do the tackle drill. I didn't know that he's the starting quarterback, but this guy was a beast wrestler too. He went to state in high school. He goes right for my left knee with a shoulder pad. That didn't go well. So once he hit my knee, I did the flip, and you already know you go for that knee and you grab it. Your season's done. So that was back to why they're hesitant for Scott, because I think Scott was a little bit smaller than me in high school too. I started lifting weights at 13. I've always been a gym rat. Cole, no, you know what I mean? I was always lifting weights. You know, it's that hard work to get that muscle. You know what I mean? And I was like, your hesitant. Scott's like, oh, you get hurt, like, you know, your brother, you know, blah blah blah. But thanks, Scott broke the barriers, man. He was like, I have a funny story too that my senior year in '98, I graduated. We had fun, but we only won 2 games my senior year. We sucked. Well, I had fun. Scott goes and plays 4 years later. You know, I was a senior. He's still an 8th grader in high middle school. His team's going to the playoffs. They're being Dowling or Robbery, the Catholic school. You know, they always recruit the good kids. And he's making a name for himself. You know what I mean? I joined the Army. I'm like, I'm so proud of my younger brother. Like, every time my buddies, I show them videos from him at Drake University. That's my brother. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so proud. You know, he's making our name look good. You know, like, Cole, you already know what comes out to it. In the Army, everybody thinks I'm a Filipino or Vietnamese or other, right? Or I get Samoan mix. I know the joke. I got the Bolo thing too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be an ocean guy or Chamorro from Guam because a lot of them join the Army. Korean, Japanese mix. I'm like
anything except Laos, right? Anything except Laotian.
Cole, when I met my wife in Hawaii, all the Laotians, there's Laotians, they blend in all the Filipinos there. There are a lot more farmers there too. You know what I mean? They go, you know, there's a lot of farming in Hawaii. So I even met my parents, my wife's parents, all, you know, Filipino, Ilocano dialect. Oh, you have a husband Filipino? They always speak, I'm sorry, Ilocano or Tagalog to me, bro. I'm like, oh no, he's not feeling my wife. Like, he's Laotian. They don't even know what Laotian. Even my wife didn't know what Laotian was until she first met me. He's like, oh, you look like a Filipino. I get it all the time. Cool, you know, even my dad. I knew that we get it from my dad's side because I know when they used to live on Salt Lake in Jordan, West Jordan, people thought he was Tongan or Hispanic or Mexican. You know what I mean? I joke around like my mom's light skin from Northern Laos, my dad's from darker skin from Southern Laos, close to Cambodia. You know what I mean? Yeah. You want to go to the next question?
Yeah. It's funny. I got Malaysian a lot because when I start, you know, I get ready for a show. I got to get real tan, right? So I always got Malaysian. So, but hey Scott, tell us about you. Tell us about your childhood, your other siblings, and what was it like growing up in Des Moines, Iowa?
Yeah. First off, thank you. You know, everything you guys been doing to promote the Lao community and promote Lao athletes, I truly appreciate it. You know, I didn't even know I was the first professional Lao football player out there. I was just trying to live my dream and do things. And just represent this community, represent my family. You know, KP did a great job explaining our family story right there. I actually did if you want the interview later, I did an interview with my parents in like 2017, just to pass down kind of what you guys are doing. I did an interview with my parents just to tell that story. So the story doesn't get lost, you know, so my kids would know, and then KP's kids would know the story of how our parents came over here. And you know, everyone talks about the American dream. I think, you know, KP, myself, and our other brothers and sister are our parents' American dream. Like, you know, like most Lao parents that came over, they left their country. They didn't know what was going on, and the children are, you know, the fruit of the reward of their hard work. So once again, thank you for that. I appreciate us letting us tell us our story, and hopefully, like you said, it inspires other people. So going into childhood, you know, I'm the third one of my mom's kids, the fourth one of my dad's kids, and you know, there's the fifth one, and then there's a younger one underneath me. Growing up, it wasn't easy. You know, it wasn't, you know, going in, you know, now our country is kind of divided, and you know, there's, you know, talk about privilege, you know, privilege underprivileged. We didn't grow up rich. I remember times where, you know, we had, you know, we were on food stamps. I remember getting the government cheese and making grilled cheese and stuff like that. There were times where my mom would work 2, sometimes 3 jobs. My dad would work in the nighttime. So it was difficult for us, and just to, you know, sustain what we did. So not only did my parents, you know, sacrifice everything, leaving their home country and coming over here, they brought that work ethic they know from Lao, they got from Lao, and then they decided their main priorities was to raise a family, work, and provide for their family, like a lot of Lao families out there. And I know that's their values. And what was instilled in us was education. Education needs to be number one. And going through, the American education system, my brothers and I were, at the time we were segregated and we were identified as ESL students. Unfortunately, our parents would speak Lao and English at home, and going through American schooling, like many other Lao children, we kind of lost our language because our parents were gone so much from working, and that's not a bad thing. That's just what they knew they had to do, and we would go through school. So like my older brothers went to school, they kind of lost their language, and so when Kenny and I grew up, the language we would speak at home was English. Our parents would still speak Lao, but our parents really, it's not at fault. They didn't really force us to speak Lao at home. So at this point, something I kind of regret, but I didn't have any control over is losing the Lao language. Something I want to get back into, and hopefully something we can do. But growing up, schooling was number one. As KP said, sports wasn't a thought. If anything interfered with education, my parents were up for it. They were strict. My dad coming from a military background, all seeing grandfather's military background. My mom, only knowing that she works 2 or 3 jobs. We didn't do much, outside of, being at home, being with the family, and then going to school, and then going to church. That was our growing up. I remember anytime my brother and I, we're a little bit younger than KP and Jonathan, we would ask to go over a friend's house or anything like that. They wouldn't let us. They didn't, like a lot of Lao parents out there, they didn't trust other people. They trust the family. At the time, there's things going on in this country. I think I still remember to this day when the Jeffrey Dahmer case was going on, and Jeff Dahmer's victims was Asian boy, and at the time, my mom and dad were so protective. They wouldn't let me go outside. They wouldn't let me go outside. I remember that. So that kind of played into the stigma and stuff like that. So going to school, I didn't do very many sports. The experience that I got from sports were either watching on TV, playing video games, or experience from my older brothers did. I would say their first love, which my parents actually let them do because there's no contact, was track, summer track. And they were pretty successful at that. We had speed. My parents will say the speed comes from my mom. She was athletic, and she could run back in the day. So my older brother, Kai Pot Jonathan, who goes by Jonathan now, was a pretty good hurdler. He broke some records at our high school, Des Moines East High School, in the 110 hurdles. And, he was a place winner at a big track and field event, Drake Relays, and the state meet here. KP did well. He ran on the relays here, and I think his 4x1 team, 4x2 team did very well, and he was the place winner also. So growing up, I had those guys to look into, and then KP, he had more of an interest in football. Jonathan played football his senior year, and I did go to a few games, and then that kind of inspired me to do things. I wanted, KP said he's proud of me, but my 2 older brothers that I was living with kind of paved the way of kind of doing sports, because my parents coming over here, they had no inkling of them playing sports. I remember, to this day, I don't know if KP remembers, my parents like yelling at him and arguing with him, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this. And like when KP said he hurt his knee his freshman year, I remember my mom saying, like a true typical Lao mom, why are you doing this? This is dumb. And, saying some other things not so nice to her children, because all she, she's a mama bear. All she cared about was the health of her kids. And why is my kid hurting himself? And then all of her kids, full-blown Lao, like you were. All of us were small. I think my freshman year in high school, I was 95 pounds.
Wow.
And then here are kids who are 95 pounds and saying, hey, you want to play a contact sport? No, she don't want to do that. So, and that's the same thing. So growing up, it was difficult, after seeing what my brothers did and they kind of inspired me to play sports, that's what kind of grew my interest. They grew around it. And then as I got older, most of my friends wanted to play sports. They were, American students that wanted to play sports. That's what students did here in America. But, our family was different. My parents didn't understand that. They just said, hey, education is number one. You don't need to do any of this other stuff. So that kind of, it's kind of a double-edged sword where my parents didn't allow me to do as much as I wanted to. So it kind of grew my desire, kind of grew my inspiration. So I guess the biggest thing is I'm very hard-headed. I can say that. My wife will tell you that. But I'm very determined. If someone's going to tell me that I can't do something, I'm going to find a way to make it happen. Yeah. So, it's kind of the funny thing in life. And I get that, you go back to my parents' story, the determination my parents were using to get out of their country, to flee their country, is passed down along the lines up to their children. So they were determined to give a better life to their children. So that determination was passed down to me, but just in a different way where they didn't let me do things I wanted to do. They didn't let me do the things my friends were doing. I remember my 8th grade year in junior high, they started 8th grade football here in Des Moines. This is the first year they started junior high football. And I was an 8th grader. All my friends were doing it. They're like, yeah, you need to join. You're fast. You play well. I remember asking my dad, and he said, no, I'm not paying for it because you had to pay for it. If you go, I'm not picking you up at practice. You will have to walk home, blah, blah, blah. So I remember I was like, man, it broke my heart. I couldn't play football because I think at the time I was even smaller. I was probably like 75, 80 pounds as 8th grader. And so I did cross country that year as a junior high student. Did cross country. But then as the year went on, I was like, I would talk to my mom and dad, which it was very hard, being bilingual family, trying to help them explain to them, hey, I want to play football next year. 8th grade year, I didn't get to play football next year in high school. And, I said, I kind of used hey, my brothers, KP and Jonathan, they play football in high school. Why can't you let me play? And after a lot of talking and discussing with my parents, they said, if you play football, your grades can't go down. If your grades go down, because I was always a good student, if your grades go down, you're not playing football. I said, okay, I'll keep my grades up. So going from there, high school, I kept my grade up. I was a straight A student. And playing football, freshman, I was kind of a lost puppy as a freshman. All these guys had an advantage over me, but I guess that will and that determination passed down from my parents. You can see my mom, working 2 to 3 jobs just to provide for her family. And kind of the same thing, people started doubting me and saying, hey, you're not very good at football. So I just kind of, believed in the process and got better. I got myself in the weight room and worked on my speed. And then I developed, physically, as most, adolescents or teenagers would. And then from my freshman year to sophomore year, I was able to develop myself at Des Moines East and go from there, started my junior year. We had a pretty good season. And then going into my senior year, we actually beat, I still say the starter. I was a starter. And then at the end of the year, I was voted captain of the team. So, and then the first game of the year, we beat, 2-time state defending champions, Dowling Catholic, which is a perennial powerhouse here in the Des Moines area, like Catholic schools and around the country. And we beat them. They were 2-time defending champions our first game year. And then we made to the playoffs my senior year, the first time in I believe 13, 14 years. So that was kind of like the growing up process between my brothers and I. It was a process in itself. It was hard. It wasn't easy. We weren't privileged at all. sometimes money was scarce, and kind of fought our way through it. And our family of I would call ourselves fighters, and determined people. If people are going to doubt us, then that's where we got it from. You can compare that to our parents coming, fleeing their country and coming back. So I guess that's answering kind of the growing up part of our family.
I totally get the broken heart part. When they tell you no, not only does it break your heart that they're not allowing you. In my case, my heart was broken because you don't believe in me, and what can you say? There was no other. I was small, I was tiny. There weren't any other, Laotian or Asian kids doing that. So I can see where the no comes from, but it does, as it breaks your heart, it's like, man, we want their support, we want their love, right? I mean, to this day with my kids, I want to break that. I want to break that cycle, break that chain. Whatever sports they want to play, you know what? I support you. I believe in you. Give it your best. That's what I can do today. I can't change, what happened to me. So I totally get, the broken heart part. KP, you got anything else to add, as far as, growing up, childhood?
Oh yeah, Scott hit it to the head. Like I said, we had some hard working parents. That mom, like I said, it's true, 2 or 3 jobs. That's one thing. And I wish I could have kept speaking Laotian fluently, but she all that was spoke to us, so I still understand it and know what they're saying and all that. But it's funny, when I went to Thailand for Cobra Gold for Army military training, joint military training with all the branches. I worked with a bunch of I was food service in the Army, so I had these Thai soldiers. They're Thai Isan, Thai Isan's right on the Thai Lao border, and they spoke Lao dialect. That's what I tell a lot of people too. It's like, oh, you Laotian? What is that? I was like Thai. We're similar, just different dialects. To be more proper. And everybody knows Thai food. Thai curries and all that, right? In Thailand, but Laos gets lost, right? It's funny. Everybody remembers Laos. Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, but Laos in the middle gets lost. Yeah, right? It is. That's our life, right? Laotian people, right? But I started speaking just every day with them, talking, shooting it. They help clean our kitchen equipment and all that. Cool people. They didn't get paid much working because I think in Thailand at 18 they had to do at least 2 years to serve, and in Korea they do the same thing in South Korea, and automatic service. And I just started picking up like, oh my god! But then of course I came back to the States and lost it. But it's just like a lot of people I talk to that have speak different languages, they're bilingual, whatever. If you don't speak it for a while, you'll lose it. But back to our parents, like I said, proud. Like I said, I thank my dad. I was like I told you, I'm humbled. Y'all interviewing me. I said I appreciate everything you did, Dad. If it wasn't what he did, he could have been killed, and we wouldn't even be alive to this day. If he got caught or drowned, it is what it is. My mom could have met another guy in a Thai refugee camp and had another life. But back to Scott though, he don't know this, but I'm gonna tell him this. When he joined the he had all kinds of letters from colleges, West Point, Air Force Academy, every other college. He went to the Air Force Academy. I was so proud, being a Army soldier. I think I was like at least 6 years in, and he went to the Air Force Academy. Oh man, my brother, man, he's smart, man. He used to watch Top Gun. He could be a pilot. He's the brains of the family. Straight A's, football stand out. And Air Force at the time was top dog in football. And they always have a good team every year. Compared to what West Point's been bringing it up in Navy Academy, they had a crappy season this year. But anyways, and they run hard. They run heavy. They play, all the military camps play that triple option a lot. Oh, Scott be in the game. He's gonna be the speed back, and he had to leave. And like I said, I was like, oh man. I talked to him like, man, I didn't like it there, man. We were rocking in the Rockies. We had to do room inspection. I know how it is being in military boot camp to the extreme. He's about to be an officer. He's about to be a leader of airmen. And it's like West Point, or the Naval Academy. It's the same thing. It's mental game to see if you're gonna be officer material, because me being an Army veteran, I was a Sergeant First Class E7. I was a non-commissioned officer. Officers up there, they make the big bucks. They're the planners. They're always in the meetings. So he was like, the only time I'm happy is like 2 hours of football practice. He said, man, I had to go. I know, Scott, I know you're missing your high school sweetheart. I know it. man, his love his life now. He has, two beautiful kids with. Nothing wrong with that, He's laughing. I knew he was homesick. It happens, you know what I mean? We were born and raised in Des Moines, Iowa. He laughing, he knows. So Amanda had a big deal with that. Thank you, Amanda. He did his thing. He found a good wife. And he had to go see the chaplain. I know how this is the same process in the military. Like, they're not going to leave because they spend all that money. You're paying full ride scholarship. Being an officer in the military is big money. And you have to at least, I know that in the Army, you have to do at least 4 or 5 years as an officer enlistment. I know Air Force, same thing. But I was like, oh, man, he had to leave Air Force Academy, man. At this point, I could have had a brother that would have been an officer. I would be happy to salute him and everything. But proud what he did with the Drake was a walk-on, no scholarship, 4-year starter opportunity. I remember you said the running back got hurt. I mean, that's the game of football, right? Jumped in. Thank God he never had any. Go and break the Drake rushing record. And I'm like, my God, my brother's a beast. I'm watching his highlight videos, yeah. And I showed my boys like in the Army. I said, my brother, look at him, man. I do like Reggie Bush. I remember Reggie Bush was the man at that time. Like, he got the speed, that breakaway, give him a little space. I remember one highlight, he went through between his 2 linemen, and he was gone. I was like, damn. I'm proud to say that's my brother, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm proud that he said I paved the way for him, you know what I mean? Like, and back to my dad being a Lao Army officer, veteran himself after the Communist War. I admit, like I said, he always wanted one of his kids to join the military, and I was his first. So trust me, it was not my first decision. When I see the high school recruiters, Scott knows in East High, they'd be sitting there by the cafeteria. I walked a long way trying to avoid them. Like, I ain't trying to go to the Army. And we all joined the Army for a reason. And we all learned from our lessons. I was young and dumb. Got sent to Iowa State. No, I didn't get a track scholarship like my older brother. Jonathan had a track scholarship. He was a beast at track. He was a lot faster than me too. But I was a hard worker. I was always fastest on track, but I busted my ass in the gym. You all know how it is, Cole. And got to state, my senior year. I was open 100, 200, 400 individual event state run. But I was on like Scott said, I was in the 4x1, 4x2 in the medley relays. My state in '98 when we went state. So I was a good relay. I was always they always had me the guy to start. I guess I was a good starter, in the blocks. And I remember our medley team got like 5th, I think on top of my head in state. That's pretty good, you know what I mean? With all the whole state of Iowa. But back to the military thing. I was State University, got accepted. Proud. Oh yeah. Went there for the wrong reason. We all know. Partied. It is what it is. Drank. My brother was in a fraternity, trying to recruit me. I was with my cousin off the campus, and wanted to live the college party life and have fun. Because you already know, Laotian people, it's all about education first. Ain't no shame. I want to party and drink, and I was young. And we were raised strict. It is what it is. Scott knows what happened, and I didn't take class seriously. And university. I would say university, any college, they don't care as long as you pay tuition. You go to class and pass and do the test or not, that's on you. You know what I mean? Failed my whole semester, like depressed, like it was a downtime for me, like embarrassed. Because you already know, Scott knows, education first. For him to play football, he had to keep his grades up. He was a straight A student. And I think for me, my excuse is not a good excuse, but it was an excuse like from kindergarten on up to high school. You get babysat. Oh, attendance, you're in school. They call your parents. The old landline phones, the voice machines and stuff. Like, your kid did not show up to school. And you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to take a break from school, but it was like bad timing. And I said, I wasted my money because I had to take, loans and grants. I paid it all back. So sitting at my parents' house, just working at Target part-time, cashier, card attendant. The parents going to Des Moines American Community College, taking one English class, because that's all I could afford. You know what I mean? And this was the Ankeny campus. I was sitting in my parents' home before we had cell phones. A high school recruiter calls. I'm sitting at the phone, watch TV, chilling. Hey, is this Kai Fed? Oh yeah, I go by KP. Yeah. Hey, you ever thought about joining the Army? You always get money for college. You know what I mean? It started clicking in my head. I made some bad mistakes, but I could do something to pay for my college and make my parents proud again. Because it was a depressive time. I don't think my dad wanted to even look at me. I already know what the Laotian family did. Just like embarrassed, you know what I mean? Like, damn, I felt like a loser. It is what it is, sitting in the house, And I was like, best decision I ever made. This is when a lot of Army recruiting stations were in the malls. I was like, you know what? Let me see what my options are. Let me talk to this guy. Small world. The guy, my Army recruiter, was his homeboy was always a recruiter at our high school, and I saw him at the recruiting station. I forgot their name. I know mine was Sergeant Major. You know what I mean? But I used to see you all the time by the cafeteria and avoid you, and he laughed like, "Yeah, you ain't the only one." So I take the free ASVAB and do pretty good. Like, oh, you have your choice of job, and long story short, best decision I ever made. I wanted to travel. I was young. I wanted money for college. That's the main thing I'm doing right now. Was to go to join the Army. They expect to make a career out of it. 3 years. I was food service specialist. Ain't gonna lie, it wasn't my favorite type of job, but I had a selection of jobs. But I jump out of airplanes too. Yeah, airborne cook, right? On my first duty station was Fort Bragg, North Carolina, with the 82nd Airborne Division. Yeah, I never flew in the plane before until I flew the basic training. I was about to jump out of airplane. So my thought was like, what the hell are you doing? Airborne, right? So yeah, like I said, end up traveling all around the world. I had my second duty station was Korea. I came to Army to travel. I was happy. Then went to Hawaii, Schofield Barracks, and got to I met my wife in Hawaii, Schofield Barracks. Like I said, I brought up earlier, like there's plenty of Filipinos in Hawaii, and like I said, I'm at Joint Base Lewis McChord. That's where I retired at. So I live in Tumwater, Washington. So, but in the places like Iraq, 13, 15 months, where in the Army you sign the paperwork, you have no choice, but you got to go. You got to go. You serve your country, yourself in the service. So I left and saw I remember doing my son's birthday at Chuck E. Cheese at 2 years old. He's 16 now. My son, Kyler Phaydavong, and had to go on a plane the next day to fly out for a 15-month deployment in Iraq. So it is what it is. But thank God I had a strong wife, a great wife. I've been married since 2002, married since 2005. Scott knows her. We get along. She gets along with Amanda too, Scott's wife, and a strong mother. Because you need in the military, you need a strong woman, faithful, good, take care of your kids, and make sure the bills is paid when you're deployed in the Army. So I thank my wife, Shella Phaydavong, for our family life, our successful military career after 20 years, successful 20-year career in the Army.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for your service, KP. Certainly admirable in your time in Iraq in particular. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, with that, the Air Force Academy, Scott, that's more of a decision about a lifestyle, right? As opposed to a school. And I'll tell you a story. When my daughter, she was a highly recruited athlete as a swimmer. Of course, the Air Force Academy called and I encouraged her to talk to them. I was all excited. She says it was just because it's 100% free, which is not true. It's because it's just, you come out of there, you have great connections. It's a whole path in life. But it just wasn't for her. She told me after 1 or 2 calls with the coach, it's just not for me. And I said, I got to respect that. It's not for everybody. So she went to a more traditional college. She's going to go to University of Pittsburgh. But Scott, you had an amazing career at Drake. I mean, shattered records. I think still to this day, you hold most of the rushing records. Tell us a little bit about your accomplishments there at Drake University.
Yeah, not to give too much, feedback. KP, gave my serve. Initially out of high school, I went to the Air Force Academy Prep School. I thought, coming from a military background, KP being in the Army, my father being in the Lao Army, grandfather being in the Army, I thought, it's part of tradition, and an opportunity to go play football, get a great education at the Air Force Academy, Colorado Springs, and join the military. I thought that was for me, but a lot of times in life, you gotta find out what's right for you. And I went there, I tell people this, short run, they ask you why you leave. You had everything. I said, well, there's people that go to college just to go to college. There's people that go to the military that just go to the military, like my brother did. And at the time, Jonathan was in the Navy at the time. And there's people that go to college just to play football. A lot of football players nowadays. And I was doing all three. I was doing college, I was doing the military, and I was doing football. And then KP kind of explained it, and I just said that the only time I was really happy there, living my life was, playing football. And that's not what I wanted to do. So I made the decision. I made the tough decision. I remember sitting on the phone. I know, hard of me to say this, but I was hiding in the closet, talking to my parents. I said, I'm coming home. I'm not doing this anymore. I went through basic training. I wasn't going to be that person that quit during basic training. I went through that. I went through about a month of schooling, and I was like, you know what? I've tried it. I figured it wasn't for me, and that's why I did it. So after that, I decided, contact some coaches, being recruited out of high school. I sent out a message that I'm transferring. I'm not playing at the Air Force Academy anymore. So one school that really recruited me hard at the time, the head coach was Rob Ash when I was a senior. He treated me very well, and I remember telling them, recruiting nowadays is all about building relationships. And I'm pretty sure your daughter built a good relationship with the pit coach and stuff like that. And Rob Ash did a really good job. He was at Drake from the late 80s all the way to, I believe, like 2006. So at the time, I built a good relationship. I remember telling them, hey, I'm going to Air Force Academy. You just need to stop calling me. He's like, no, I'm not going to stop calling. Sometimes people change their mind, and, we go from there. So he kept on calling. He was the only one that kept on calling. And after I said I'm going to commit to the Air Force Academy Prep School. And so I decided after going there, I decided to transfer. I contacted him to say, we would love to have you at Drake. Going back to the hometown. Obviously, at the time, my girlfriend, now my wife, Amanda, was back home, and family being back home. I won't lie. I missed her to death and stuff like that. She was part of the reason, but it wasn't all the reason. She was willing. She's a strong woman, like KP's wife. She's a strong woman. She would have been fine with me being at the Air Force Academy. We've talked about that to the day, but it was more of the 3-in-1 package that I didn't want to do. Like your daughter, she tried the Air Force Academy. There's people. I remember being in the Air Force Academy Prep School. There's people that just said, hey, this has been my dream to come to the Air Force Academy. I was like, what? It's been your dream? I said, how's this your dream? I didn't even know about the Air Force Academy until they started recruiting me. I was like, you're like, yeah, I've been dreaming about this since I was like 5. I was like, all right then. So that's how I got to Drake. Not to go too far back. Kind of go back to my, Cole, just with like what you said, changing. I didn't get to say this, but changing the stereotype. One thing, and I know you guys wrote about it in the article. One thing growing up, my parents, and kind of goes into playing at Drake. One thing my parents didn't really do, because they go to education and schooling and work. That's all they knew. Is I know KP can vouch on this too. They really didn't go to our football games. They didn't really go to our track events. And it goes back to being heartbroken again. I guess that kind of put fuel to my fire too, where, my teammates, their parents were there all the time,
Yeah.
But my parents, they would drop me off and they would say, see you later. I'll pick you up when you're done. And, AAU basketball or football, whatever. I guess that kind of helped out, and kind of bring me to where I'm at now, kind of evolution of Scott Phaydavong of how I got where, there's a point in my life, I know, talking about support, I want you to support me. You didn't support me. But the nice thing about this, this Phaydavong story is, my parents changed. They evolved with the times, with the article being from Des Moines East. I don't think my freshman year to junior year, I didn't think they went to any games. They didn't go to any football games, they didn't go to any track meets. Then, in the article you guys talked about, because I said it, they started, because they would work with other Lao people, and my name was in the paper, weekly, and they started to take notice. And so my parents started seeing, hey, no, my Lao kid who's, should be focusing on football, for school, who's a straight A student, but he's doing well in football too. Maybe this could be a good thing. So, trust me, my brothers and I had many, many arguments of why are we doing sports? Why are you doing this? It's a waste of money. You should be doing that. But they kind of evolved, with the times, which there's some Lao parents that still don't evolve. Okay, I know that. My parents, were the strictest of the strict. I know there were other family members going from there. So my senior year, they kind of evolved into, they didn't miss a game. All right. They went to most of my track meets. They didn't go to all my track meets, but they went to most of my track meets. So I saw this evolution in my parents that I haven't seen before. That they didn't do. My brothers didn't do with me early in my year, but they kind of evolved into now. Like my mom, if she was on this interview, she would say when she was in the stands, "Don't hurt my boy, don't hurt my boy, don't hurt my boy." That's all she would want. She didn't know. She didn't like her coming to America. She didn't know a word of English. She didn't know what the hell was going on in the game of football. So my dad had to like kind of translate to her, like, Scott's doing well. He's running the ball. He's running away from people. And they got to the point where they evolved into they understood the game. I would come home on the weekends and they would watch football. They would watch college football. They would watch NFL football. I'm like, what the hell are you guys watching? Watching football. And that's kind of, evolution of our family where, they didn't know anything about football. And then now, this great game of football has brought them to there. So I didn't want to go too far back, but I wanted to make sure I spoke on that. Another thing that, most people don't know that kind of brought me, kind of evolutionized me and, made me a little bit more, kind of a tragedy, which doesn't get spoke about. I didn't really don't speak about it because it happened when I was a senior also was, my first cousin, my dad's brother's son, Jimmy Phaydavong, was murdered my senior year in the summer. So that kind of, brought some fuel to the fire. I kind of dedicated that season to him. And I made sure that he was my age. That's, most people don't know that about me. A few people, my close friends do. And, I just wanted to make sure I recognize that, we lost family member at a young age and growing up and kind of going into it, going back to the Lao athletes here, at the time, there was probably 0 Lao football players in the Des Moines area. I was the only one. And going up and, there are many choices. We talk about choices all the time. Jimmy, he might not have been doing the right things all the time, but he was at a party and then supposedly took something and then two guys at the party beat him to death. And we lost my first cousin at the time, and from there kind of evolved, this little bit more of, hey, life is short, things can be taken away from you. You got to take the most out of your opportunity, which I think, any opportunity that was given to me, that's, a thing I would say to most athletes is you got to take advantage of your opportunities. You never know what's going to come. And, going to Des Moines East and then going to Drake now, I went in, I wasn't the number 1 running back going in. I went through spring ball, I went through winter practices and stuff like that. And I was a 3rd running back on the depth chart. And then going to spring practice, I just put my head down. I worked and I just did my thing. I learned best I could. College playbook compared to the high school playbook, it's more sophisticated than what you think. So plays are plays, but then there's different ways to call it and stuff like that. And the Drake system was kind of very complicated. So I had to learn it. It took me a while to learn it. So I went through spring balls, 3rd running back, and going to fall camp. I kind of, excelled at it, worked on my craft, and then going into the fall season of 2004, I was listed as the number 2 running back. So I made, I was number 2, I was back up, and, as a freshman, I was happy with the position I was at. But I knew, I wanted to be the guy. So I just kept my head down, kept working, Carlos Love, who's a good friend of mine, who is him and I still talk to this day, was a starter. Unfortunately, we went to Southeast Missouri State first game of the year, and he had a good game. And he got hurt though. I think he tore meniscus. So I got thrown into the fire, and when opportunity knocks, you never know what comes. So unfortunately for DeCarlos, he got hurt. I stepped in, and from there everything just took off. 2004 we had a great season. We had 2 early losses, and then we just went on a roll as a team. We grew together, as a team, and then we won the PFL, the Pioneer Football League Championship that year. We beat Morehead State in the championship game. As a freshman, a lot of accolades, as you state in the article, broke records, seniors records. I was co-offensive player of the year, the conference. I was an All American. And then, so that continued into, my sophomore, junior year, which I was fortunate to break our single records too. Kind of funny story is, I'm a teacher now, so I have students Googling me. I didn't even think about this. A student right before winter break said, "Hey, Coach Phaydavong, you're the number one, the number two, and number three top rusher in Drake history." I said, technically you're right. I didn't even think about that. I said, yeah. So students are Googling me now, and it's kind of funny, and it seems like a long time ago, but it was a privilege representing the Lao community, representing my family in college. I've never thought about it, but now as I gotten older, going through, we played California schools, we played Florida schools, we played a lot of teams in the Midwest. There weren't very many Laotians or Lao people playing football. It's the same thing going to high school. And, I made the decision to do this. It's like, when he went to bodybuilding, there's not very many Lao people that do it. I'm pretty sure he went to a lot of difficulties like I did, from the sports side of it, kind of reverse discrimination where people from our own culture would question, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
So like I remember going to high school and people saying, we had a big Lao community at Des Moines East and say, "Hey, why you playing football? Why don't you come hang out with us?" And I would always say, "Nah, I'm good." Some of those guys would not make good decisions. Like everyone, and you had people in your life that would make good decisions, bad decisions. The people in my life, they influenced me. Like my brothers were the people that did good things, that wanted to be in sports. And I view sports as something to get myself out of Des Moines area, which I did with the Air Force Academy, and it's led to me where I'm at now. And I remember, so many times, people, my parents questioning me, my own community questioning me because I was different. There was no one playing football, a lot of people playing football, and it was different in a good way. At the time, I didn't know it, and I know a lot of athletes go through that. Successful athletes go through that in their own way, where they have to sacrifice things to be successful. So going through East and going to Drake, we a conference championship. I had several individual accolades. I built relationships with guys who I still talk to this day at Drake. And it kind of propelled me to my career in coaching. Going through Des Moines East and then football, I never thought I wanted to be a coach. But for game of football, it does something for you. It's a team sport. You can't do anything without your teammates, and it shows. So just something about the game, I started to love it. Our first love as, Phaydavong boys were track and field, but now I say that, but the game of football, it's different. It's different. Just like I was different. I was different from my own community. I was different from my family because I was the one playing football. But the love for it, the camaraderie of it, you need everyone to do their job type of deal is kind of like a military background. It's kind of like, the teamwork around and everything else. And so that's where it kind of propelled me into my coaching role.
So, Scott, I want to ask you about your decision to join the GFL. But real quick, tell me about how old were you when you knew in your heart that this is what you wanted to do, that you wanted to take this as far as possible? How old were you then? And what type of, who are the guys that you looked up to in the NFL?
Probably, one of the most influential guys, from our days as a younger was Dat Win, a Vietnamese guy, but Southeast Asia, he played on the Cowboys. He played at Texas A&M. That kind of opened my eyes and say, hey, he's the Asian player. He was All American college, and kind of opened my eyes. You can you do things differently than other people. So I was a big Cowboys fan too. So that's kind of one of my favorite players watching. So I would say I didn't know. I didn't realize how far football could take me until recruiting actually occurred, when I was getting all the letters and I was getting the phone calls, and I'm just like, what's going on? And my parents really didn't know either. my parents, they're like, well, why are these people calling you all the time? I said they want me to play for them and stuff like that. And so I guess I didn't really know until my junior, probably spring of junior year that, hey, I could be doing something. I could commit to something. If I commit to something, I could be pretty good at it. You know, I was fortunate in the track year that year. We won our 4x1 state championship. So getting to taste the success, I wanted to continue that. And then I didn't learn to go join the GFL until I actually graduated from Drake. I was getting phone calls from Italy, Germany, and I was like, I don't want to. No, my senior year, I was like, I don't want to do it. I was student teaching. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I think I got numerous calls. And then Schwäbisch Hall, who's in Germany, Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns, they called me multiple times. The head coach is Siegfried. And he called me multiple times. And then out of the blue in the fall, he calls me again. I was actually teaching at Des Moines East at the time. And I wasn't playing. I was like, you know what? I was out of it for a whole semester. And then I started teaching for about a month or two. And then he called me. He's like, you want to play? And I said, you know, it started to come back. You know, you're away from something. The game that you love, it started to come back. And I started talking about at the time, my wife, she was my fiance at the time. And I said, hey, what do you think about me leaving my teaching job to go play and give an opportunity and stuff like that? She said, yeah, if you want to do it. And, you know, I support you in anything you want to do. And then as I thought about it, you know, that year in 2008, because I went in 2009, the fall of 2008 winter, I was like, you know what, let's go for it. And I'm young, let's do it now. And then they kept on calling me, you know, I said, you know what, let's do this. So I actually left my teaching job at Des Moines East in 2009, the spring 2009, to go over and play. And that's where I joined the GFL, the German Football League. At the time, the Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns were kind of a middle of the league team in they call it the League One. I can't remember what they call it. There's different leagues to it, like soccer over there. There's different leagues. There's the top league and stuff like that. So GFL 1 was the top league, so we were playing it. But then they recruited me there and recruited a couple other Americans, one a quarterback from Franklin College and a linebacker from Wofford in Florida. And then we had a D lineman from Capital University in Ohio. So we were recruited there. The nice thing about most people don't know it's in GFL. It's a German league, so they have import players. So you can only have 2 Americans on the field at one time. So I was one of the quarterback and I were on offense, and the rest of the players were German. So we were kind of imported over to be able to adjust that, and we were successful that year. I was a kick returner, receiver, running back, doing it all. We actually won the South Division of the GFL. We won the South Division, so we went to the playoffs. We went to the semifinals. We played against the Kiel Hurricanes, and we were about 50 seconds from going to the German Bowl, which is the Super Bowl. We were there. Mm-hmm. We got the lead on a touchdown by, I think, 1 or 2 points. 50 seconds left. We thought we were going to win it. They drive down. They kick a 46 to 50 yarder. They win the game. No time left. So we lost on the heartbreak on that one. So I got great experience from the German Football League. You know, being able to go over there and represent my community, represent my family, represent everything I've done. And I was able to travel. You know, at the time. You know, my wife at the time, fiance at the time, came over. We traveled to France. I actually met some relatives in Orleans, France, that, you know, some Lao relatives that I've never met before. I traveled with them and a little bit. Went to different areas in Germany. And went to Rome, you know, experienced things that I right now, with having 2 kids, I probably won't be going back to Rome, or, you know, with COVID and everything, you can't go anyways. But I got to experience things I've never experienced before, which, you know, it comes back to choices and decisions. I made the choice to leave a teaching job, good paying teaching job, to go pursue my dreams. And after that, you know, I decided, you know what, I came back to the States. I said, you know what? My true love is coaching. I got my season done in GFL. I decided they wanted me to come back. And I said, you know what? I'm getting married. I want to start my coaching career. So, and that's where I GA'd at Chadron State, where I got my master's in administration. I had my teaching degree, and then I added a PE endorsement. I wanted to be a PE teacher with coaching. You know, it goes hand in hand. So I did that. Chadron State, coached 2 years there, highly successful coach. Glenn Clinton, who his senior year, I coached him his freshman and sophomore year. By his senior year, he was like in the Division II, the Harlan Hill finalist, which is a Heisman Trophy for Division II, which Chadron State was what Danny Woodhead went to. He kind of made Chadron State famous. And so I went there. Coach O'Boyle, who's actually a Des Moines East native. He went to Des Moines East also. He's on the Hall of Fame like I am there at the high school. Kind of recruited me there, taught me a whole bunch of things. So I got my knowledge there, gained experience. Then I came back to the Des Moines area, was actually office coordinator at Carroll Kemper up in Carroll, Iowa, which is about an hour west of Ames, where Iowa State's at. I was office coordinator there. My 1 year there, I was able to kind of lead our offense to the semifinals. We lost to the eventual state championship, Spirit Lake. That year, I believe that was 2012 or 2013. And then from there, I kind of came to Southeast Polk. They kind of gave me a call. I knew a couple of people. I played with Drake, Drake connections here. And they were coaching at Southeast Polk, and they said, hey, were you interested in coming down? And my wife, who's from the Des Moines area, she hates small towns. She's now a small town girl. She's a girl. She looked at me and she said, we're going. And the funny story is that team that when we lost to the semifinals 2012, we had 19 players coming back the next year. So we were a semifinalist team, but we had 19 players as juniors. And I knew the following year they won the state championship. So I was at Southeast Polk, and they won the state championship the next year. And I until this year, I've been dreading that ever since. But now we've made it up for it, so we can get to that next question. So,
John.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So yeah, you had a great season this last year with the Southeast Polk Rams, Scott. That was pretty exciting. Tell us a little bit about that. And you've got some phenomenal players on that team that are going places. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing, a state championship. For those who don't know, Southeast Polk, we were 5A, first time 5A. They changed classifications here in Iowa, so we were the first 5A state champions, first in school history. We were actually runner-up last year, and we've been runner-up in 2004. So this is the first state championship in football for the school of Southeast Polk. A little backstory: when I went to Southeast Polk, we were probably middle of the pack team. We would make the playoffs. We weren't elite yet. So kind of going through the process, kind of like my evolution as a player, we had to kind of evolve as a team. We have great coaches at Southeast Polk now. Our head coach for track, Jason Knowlton, kind of guided me under his wings, gave me a lot of experience, and we've learned a lot of things, and we've grown together. And then our head coach, he's called the best head coach in the state of Iowa, Brad Zelenovich. And we've kind of built this program from, being in the middle of the pack, making the playoffs, to now being elite. So last year during the COVID year, we were able to be runner-ups. We were undefeated to the state championship game. Unfortunately, played and coached the worst game of the year, and we lost to Ankeny, which is a powerhouse in the area also. But then this year, we were able to rebound. We lost to Ankeny earlier in the year in the regular season, and then we beat Ankeny in the state championship game. So our kids responded. To testament to our guys. We've had great leaders. You just said it about it. We've had great players. Great. Not only are they great football players, they're great people. They're great athletes. They're great leaders, great ambassadors for our community. They've been in our program. We're not a program that, different areas that recruit or anything like that. We're a public school, and the kids that won the state championship are kids that grew up in our program. So like the big names that people hear about are quarterback Jackson Daly, he signed to Arkansas State. All these kids I've been working with since I teach at the junior high here, since their junior high years, or if not earlier, elementary school days when they came to our football camp. Xavier Wampa, who signed to Iowa recently, he had offers anywhere. He had offers anywhere you name it, he could have went to. He's actually going to play in the Adidas All American game this weekend. I'm actually going to go down and watch him with my wife and my kid in San Antonio. But he's great people. He was a 4-year starter in our program, defensive player of the year, Max Press defensive player of the year, Jackson Daly, first team All-State. And then we have, another player coming up who's probably the number one tackle in the United States and the number one prospect in the state of Iowa, Caden Proctor. He was only a junior this year, and he's a big boy. He has a lot of growing to do still, but he's a wrecking ball. He's prototypical tackle. He's like 6'6", 6'7". Beginning of the year, he probably ate too much during the summer. He's like 340, but he can move. The big boy can move, and no bragging rights here. Our summer training, he actually challenged me to a race. I'm 37 now, so I don't have that extra gear, but I can say I did beat a five-star tackle, but I know that's not saying much, but I did. So it took me a little bit to get them, but I did. So going in that's where we're at. We kind of developed this, and we've had a great track season. Last year we were going back to when I ran there. Drake Relay Champion state champions, our 4x1, 4x2 had a tremendous year, and we're going to hope to continue building these programs at Southeast Polk.
Yeah, that's good. So just a little bit of Lao American Sports Hall of Fame trivia. Justin Fongsavan brought home a bronze medal from Tokyo, went to Ankeny and played football there. He's a Paralympic athlete. So you might have coached against him a few years back, Scott.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. I think he went to Centennial. I think he was Centennial.
Oh, was it
so
Centennial?
I think he was part. Well, they split into two schools.
Scott, tell us about your family. I guess recently your wife had like a health scare. Tell us a little bit about that, and your boys. Are your boys interested in following your footsteps, or what sports are they into?
Yeah, unfortunate situation my family went through 2 years ago. My wife was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. She was triple negative, which was a fast-growing tumor. They found 2 tumors, one on her left breast and one in her lymph nodes on her left shoulder. It was kind of Thanksgiving time 2 years ago, and she was telling me she was having pain. And then she did kind of a self-examination, and she found a lump on her breast. So she went to the doctor, and they sent her to do a mammogram and stuff like that. And, unfortunately, no news from the doctor like that you ever want to hear. Is they spoke to us and gave us news and said, hey, you have breast cancer. And that was kind of devastating. I think I was going through the track season. That year, and that was right before COVID shut down everything. And it was kind of blessing in disguise. Even though I wanted to coach track, at that time I needed to be with my wife, and with her, the doctors determined that she would do 2 different rounds of chemotherapy. I can't remember how long they were. I think they were 6 to 8 weeks each round. The second one being more extensive. And then she would go through radiation, 6 to 8 weeks of that. And then she would need a surgery of her choice, either a lumpectomy or a mastectomy, a double mastectomy. They recommended a lumpectomy. I think my wife ended up going mastectomy with that. So that time, very stressful time. She was 33. They say, 1 in every 3 women nowadays will be affected by some type of cancer now, or breast cancer. So we were at the time almost 2 at the time, and we had 2 growing boys, and we had to deal with it. And, going through, going back and doing this interview now and just thinking about it, what I learned from my parents and what I learned from sports kind of helped me in this situation. No one can prepare you for what we had to go through. No one can. No one can prepare you for when the doctor tells you you have cancer and it's stage 2 and you're going to have to do that. There's nothing that can prepare you. Going through football, going through life, we always try to prepare ourselves, but that was awakening. So, I truly had to be there for my wife. And, one thing I go by and say all the time to my athletes is you got to love and trust the process. The process of, as an athlete, maybe you're not that good right now, but you got to develop yourself into becoming the best athlete, the best person that you are. And you got to take it one play at a time, one day at a time. And at that time, I'm a coach, I'm all over the place, I'm a teacher. I had to take it slower, and I had a support system. The coaches understood that and stuff like that. And they did whatever I needed to do. But we truly had to take it one day at a time where, especially in her chemotherapy, my wife, there were some bad days. There's some days she didn't wake up the whole day. And, I had to take, fortunately, the values I got from my parents, back in the day growing up, they brought my grandparents over and they lived with my cousins. But sometimes, my cousins and my grandparents would live with us. Fortunately for that situation, the values that I gained from my family, which is for some American families out there, this is weird because I've talked to people about this, but this is normal in the Lao community. Is my mother-in-law lives with me. She's not Lao, she's Caucasian, but she lives with me. She helped me raise my boys. But that's just like, a Lao family. I remember my grandparents lived with my cousins and they helped raise, they would come over and watch me and then do that. But that's part of culture. I remember the house that we're in, I said, hey, if we're going to have another son, we're going to have another kid. I didn't know it was a son at the time. And we need your mom to move in because I'm a coach. I'm not here a lot. She's going to help out. And that's something I grew up in. It's something that a lot of Lao families do. They grow up with their parents and stuff like that. So fortunately, my mother-in-law lives with me and she helped out in the situation, but we had to take it one day at a time. Fortunately, sad story, it's become, a success story. Another success story. My wife, she's the strongest woman she has, she's just proven it. She's stronger than me. She went through two different rounds of 6 to 8 week chemotherapy. She went through radiation and she got a double mastectomy. She's been doing great. She's I think it's about a year and a half since she's been cancer free. And, bless, it's a gift from the Lord, be able to do that. There's a lot of people that can't say that, and, we've been, all of our cancer has been great. And, our boys, got through it and stuff like that. Another thing that we deal with on a daily basis that kind of people don't recognize is like our youngest son right now. He's currently 4 and he's nonverbal right now. So that's just something else we kind of deal with as a family. But you know what? We've been through a lot and we'll get through it. And he's the as they come. Everyone thinks I'm gonna be the stereotypical dad, the coach dad that kind of pushes a sport on to him and stuff like that. And the only thing I kind of push on to him, and even though they had a bad game this past weekend, is I'm a Michigan Wolverine, so I push that on him a little bit. He does say go blue, but when it comes to sports, I've seen it too much. I've seen it too much where there's that crazy dad that pushes on him. I haven't been that. I've been dad. We've thought, my wife and I have always talked about that. Been dad. There's going to be a time and place where when he wants to go, he wants to go. He's named after me. He's Scott Phaydavong II. So he already has that against him because he everyone's going to think he's going to be me, but he's his own person. He's unique, but there's a lot of traits. There's a lot of traits that he has of me, and he's very smart. He's like me in schooling, and that's going back to my parents and the education system. He's high in math. He's high in reading. And I tell my parents that all the time. We're on the phone call, and that's what they're proud of, and that's what they, coming back, full circle is, KP and I, we have kids, and this is their American dreams. Like most Lao parents, they escaped their country. America is not their home country, but this is their dream to have their kids raise up in this community, be successful, have their own kids, and my dad, he tells me all the time that he's proud of all of his kids. Even though not all of us go the same route, obviously KP went to a different route than I did. We're doing what it's meant to be done because their dream was to come over here, provide for their family, and we're doing that. We're living that. So that's what my parents are appreciative of.
Very good. So we're almost at the end of the interview here, but KP, tell us a little bit about your family and you're a personal trainer. We'd love to hear briefly about that.
Yep. Like I said, my wife is Scott Phaydavong. I'm married since 2005. I have my daughter, Keilana Phaydavong, about to turn 8 in February. And my son, Kyler Phaydavong, just turned 16 this past December 5. But like Scott said, I'm not the same dad. I'm not going to push sports on my son. My son is a real smart kid, straight A's. I'm not complaining. He's musically inclined. He's had straight A's in elementary. Like I said, he's a sophomore in high school right now. Tennis and volleyball in Hawaii, So I think she's gonna be the athlete. But like I said, I support my game. She's smart too. But as a personal trainer, I already knew when I did 20 years and 1 month in the Army as a culinary management NCO, not commissioned officer, culinary management supervisor, same thing. Food service, the old term, supervisor. I did not want to do food service no more. I know what hard work is and working from sun up to sundown, and I said I was, I was a gym rat, like Cole is, what I mean? Like I was hitting the gym. I was known as a gym rat in the Army. I was like, man, that was my bucket list to be a personal trainer. And I see how me and Scott are so similar in personality, we're family, man. And he's a coach too. I'm a coach in the fitness side. And I decided, my buddy had a gym called Spanway Fitness here. I worked with him back in the days. And he said, oh, wait, I hit him up. He said, oh, I was thinking about being a personal trainer at this gym. He said, I started to get my certification. Hey, come to my gym. We have a schooling called NPTI, National Personal Training Institute. They do all hands-on in my gym. I'm like, what? And at Joint Base Lewis McCord, where I was retired at, it's only like a 20-minute drive from the base. And this before COVID, of course. So I was like, oh man, military, I love hands-on training. We all do, in the military, we do everything, Army, hands-on training. So that's the decision I made with their hands-on. The good thing is my post 9/11 GI Bill paid for it. It was not a special certification now, but it doesn't expire. That's a good thing. Because, the common ones like NASM and ACE, you have to recertify like every 2-3 years. And it costs a lot of money to test. And you failed, you lost money. But I got my certification after I retired perfectly. And I retired from the Army, 20 years, honorable discharge, successful. That was one of my bucket list, like proud things to do. Graduate high school. I joined Army for money for college. So I worked at 24 Hour Fitness for 5 months. But 24 wasn't, it has its ups and downs. It is what it is. I work at a small gym, a studio gym called Edge Fitness, which it's a lot. Me and the boss, her name is Amanda Salazar. We work hand in hand as partners, and I do a lot of our boot camps and personal training here and there. But I love it in her gym because I don't have the pressure of being a salesman for like a big box gym like 24 Hour Fitness. That's another story, right? But I love training. The gym is always my love and passion. I know Cole. It's like it was my therapy. In the Army, you know, we do extreme stress, especially deployed. Extreme stress. Like a good term about the Army is like it's controlled chaos. It's true. When I say controlled chaos, and it's something is crazy. You either break or you roll under stress. And I was always the one like Scott said. growing up from our parents, we just adversity, you know what I mean? So it was just like, I work well under stress. Okay, you doubt me. I'm the same. How me and Scott, like the same personality. In the Army, people always talk to John, oh, you ain't gonna do this, you can do that. And then it was like, okay, I got something for you. And like, you put it out, bam, got it. Mission accomplished. So that's the good thing about the military is like, we are always ready to do the work ethic, being an ocean background, education first. Like I said, I was sacking groceries, working at Target, growing up, at 15, 16 years old. I was working my own jobs. I didn't ask, because I know my parents worked hard. After I started working those jobs, I never asked money from my parents, you know what I mean? But back to, got out of the Army, got my personal training certificate. I love what I do now, education-wise. Remember, like in my video, my parents said they want education. It was so bad, Scott knows, don't worry about having a girlfriend, education first. Remember I told you my downtime when I was at ISU, I was at university, I dropped out. I was like, damn, low time, depressed, man. I'm like a loser son right now, and I turned it all around doing the military. I joined all money for college, you know what I mean, right? So on personal training, I'm like, I got a lot of money still on my GI Bill after I used my, I only used probably like 4 or 5 months for my personal training. And, they give you almost 3 years, 36 months for schooling, for any kind of school, private school, community college. So I chose to go to SPSCC here. It's called South Petersburg Community College. Man, like, damn, I haven't done damn school since 98. Oh my God. Because some guys don't give me that in the military, the Army, they get their degrees, bachelors, some get their master's, it depends on your job. I was always busting my butt like the go-to guy, like handling business. But here's the thing. They pay for your schooling, but if you fail the class, you still got to pay out of your pocket, right? Because it's called tuition assistance in the Army. So I was like, man, I've seen a lot of guys like, oh, I can't make it, working food service, doing soldiers. They didn't have time, they failed the class, you have to pay for it, And I tell people, I love serving my country, it's the best decision ever made. But the one thing I don't miss about the Army is babysitting grown men and women. It is what it is, right? Sometimes micromanage to the T, right? But bam, 2 years, going to class before COVID, enjoying college. COVID hit. Damn, everything's online. I learned. I bought me a MacBook Pro, knocked it out. Associate's in Arts degree at SPSCC. Finally, college graduate. Proud, like that was my bucket list. Go finally. But already retired. Personal trainer, certification. Now college graduate. I need to get this bachelor's. I have enough for this bachelor's. So I looked around a lot of these private schools, like, oh, I only had like 16 months left, one day with my personal on GI Bill. So I'm like, called around, like, oh, you have to go over. I'm not trying to pay out of pocket with these private schools. So I chose to a school online that a lot of military guys go to. It's called American Military University. Also called American Public University. A lot of people I had a buddy of mine that got his bachelor's in communications and he was in the Army. Bam. Transferred all my credits. First one, exercise science, was being a trainer, but they only transferred between one. So it's 120 to the bachelor's. I only got 60 for my associate's art. So they only gave 62 for my science. I only got 60 months. I'm not trying to go over. And then they say, oh, with all your management, leadership, and supervisor stuff in the Army, my joint service transcript, we'll transfer you to a BA in management, bachelor's in management. Bam, transferred over 84 credits to 120. Whoa, only 12 classes to finish. Knocked out 3, halfway through these 3. So just say I got 6 more classes to get this BA management. Goal list, bucket list. I'm not gonna be a master's like Scott in education and my older brother Jonathan. But hey, I got my education with this bachelor's, you know what I mean? Now, my goal is they have strict and condition coaches, jobs, civilian contractors for the military. I'm a veteran. I want to train these future soldiers to help them because they changed the new PT test, Army Combat Fitness test in the Army, and that's what I do. I specialize in strength training. I've always been the gym rat, powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever, you know what I mean? Kettlebells, a TRX, I'm certified in all that. But, or not be a gym fitness manager, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. I have the experience in the Army. I have the experience at working at a big box gym and a small gym. So I have a lot of options, but like I said, family-wise, thank God, my parents, role models, they stay together. Of course, there's no such thing as perfect. What it is, our fights, we all know, we're all married. You just take the good from the bad, and you got to think about the kids and take care of them, you know what I mean? And have the best, like our dad instilled in us, get the best opportunities for us. Make your name proud. And that's one thing my dad was so proud of. Even in the military uniform, we always have their name, Phaydavong, on our uniform, or camouflage to our dress uniform. And he was proud, like in basic training, they take your name, they take all your rights, and you're like locked down, but you have your last name on you, you know what I mean? And they can't say that's Phaydavong, that's a Laotian last name, you can't give it away, that's Vong. Every time you see that Vong, you already know Cole knows, it's like, that's Laotian. You know, when people think Filipino, and they look at that last name, like, no, that ain't Filipino last name, or Cambodian, you know. I mean, a lot of Vietnamese, Cambodian, not Vietnamese, Koreans, Asian-wise, in the Army. But when you met a Laotian and you saw the next thing, hey man, you from Lao? Yeah, you Lao, man. We have the connection, yeah. And it's like anywhere, we meet good Laotian people and bad Laotian people anyway. And Scott knows, like we said, he brought up, like me and my brother back to our high school days. Think back in the late 90s, you already know the gangster, everybody want to be gangsters back then. Gangster rap was big, and I love Tupac and Biggie and all that, you know what I mean? Bone Thugs and Harmony. And he used to call me and my brother South. It is what it is. Because like Scott said, why you hanging out? You come hang out with us, but they were making the best decisions. Stay in sports. And sports is like, it is. And it's true. It keeps you out of young girls getting pregnant. Keep you out of bad influence like gangs and robbing people and doing drugs, you know what I mean? And especially football, it's a team sport. It's the ultimate team sport. We got to work together to win the game. You know what I mean? So that's why I said me and Scott, I appreciate you put us together because we have similar personalities. And it's like, I know this interview is going to be good. I know we can both talk, but it is what it is. But like, I'm so humbled and thank you for giving us this opportunity for this interview.
Yeah, we appreciate guys coming on. Last question, and this will be for both of you. What advice do you give for the younger generation coming up that might be going through the same thing as you, that might be telling their mom and dad, hey, I want to play this sport, and let's say their parents don't agree? What kind of advice can you give to them? So we'll start with Scott.
Yeah, go for it.
I guess, the first off, coming from, directly speaking to Lao, immigrant families and stuff like that, or, being first generation like we were, is I wish someone would have told me this, it's okay to be different as a family. It's okay to be different as an athlete, but be different in a good way. Don't be different in a bad way. You gotta make good decisions. Honestly, our family dynamic was different. I didn't have any, support in football, track and field, and stuff like that. But then I wish someone would have told me that it's okay. You can accept that. You can accept your family being different. I know there was times growing up, I wish upon, I bad me to say, I wish that like some of my friends' parents were my parents, and I said that. But now being where I'm at and understanding where my parents came from and what they provided for me, I'm truly appreciative. We talk about all the time. There could be instances where we're not even here. We're appreciative of being in this country and living this American dream and being, the fruits of our parents' dreams and doing that. And then take, with this generation nowadays, you got to trust the process, love and trust the process. Like I said earlier, I talked about earlier, because everything is social media related. Everything is instant gratification. Nothing is handed to you. All right. Just like your bodybuilding days, you said you were 100 pounds. I was 95 pounds as a freshman. We were, us Lao, especially, I'm not putting down, because my kids are different breeds, and half breeds and stuff like that. But like true full breed Lao athletes are not very big. I watched the Olympics, I watched the national championships. They're not very big, and that's the development of that. And if you want to get to where you want to be at, you got to trust the process. You got to take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and take a look at me and say, hey, he went through it one day at a time. I was 95 pounds. I was told I couldn't do this. My parents didn't let me do it. People always doubted me. But I was determined to do that. That's a determination from your parents. And that's what the values that were instilled us from our parents. And you got to just prove people wrong. And then you got to take the most of your opportunities. Yeah. Because when an opportunity comes, you got to take advantage of it. There's so many people nowadays, or athletes nowadays, that gain opportunity but don't take advantage of it.
KP?
Like I said, Scott, he's a perfect example of like how my parents were like, oh, don't do sports. Oh, we don't support you. I remember my senior year, when the seniors walked, Scott knows this, being a football coach, it was kind of embarrassing. My dad and mom wasn't there to walk with me, and my Coach Rad was a good guy back then, my senior in high school, East High, walked with me, because instead of walking by myself, because everybody had their parents, and I was like, same way, I was like, I wish I had my other teammate parents that supported. But it was a 360 turn. They look at it. They know how to run. They know all the football games. They already know who good at college, NFL level. They're watching the Super Bowl and the national championship. They know everything about football because of Scott. And I thank him for that. And I love football to this day too. You know what I mean? I joke around, Coach. If I had this, I was on like 175. I was a little bit bigger than Scott when I played football. And I was like, I'm like 220 right now. I could play some ball in college level. You know, I had to size out, joke around, just age catching up. You know, especially when I turned 25, the weight started getting on. You know, I was always high. We always had high metabolism. You know, being a bodybuilder, you got to eat. You know what I mean? Get the calories in and hit the gym hard. But you just got to have the support from your parents. Be patient. You know what I mean? Some parents are going to change and make good decisions. Like Scott said, these kids nowadays, I see now, it's all technologies, iPhones, iPads. It's nothing wrong with that. But I noticed they lost the art of how we're talking, people skills and communication. Even in the Army, it's just like you still got to learn how to do an interview one day. You're not going to get just a job just to be there. You know what I mean? And you know, me in the Army, I get it from, I think, my mom, because she's a big social person. I get it, you know, the how to talk and stuff, and being a trainer, I have to. You have to learn how to talk to people. You don't know how to talk to people, relate to people, and have empathy and all that. You're not going to be a good trainer, be successful, like Scott. And I'm like a coach in the fitness world too. I'm pushing them. And just like Scott, I saw a video when he was coaching. I'm like, man, that looks like me. You know what I mean? We're so similar, right? It's like we got similar how we coach and we push each other in boot camp. You know, these people are getting their butts kicked doing hit training, because interval training. We gotta push them, motivate them. You know what I mean? It's just like it's I love it. Like he loves what I do, and I love what I do as a fitness trainer. That's why I want to stay in the fitness industry after I'm done with my BA in management. But you got to work hard, kids. You know what I mean? It's not given to you. I have clients now that like, oh, they just graduated college. One was, I think, a social worker. Oh, and she wants to be paid like the top manager level. Like, no, you got, like in the Army, you got to start from bottom to top. You know what I mean? I started from a E1 private. I mean, the E7 sergeant first class in the Army. Hard work and determination. You know, you get your annual reports, you call NCOERs. You got to have to build that stuff. If you're a crappy leader or soldier or manager in the Army, you're not going to get promoted. You might as well get out and go on. Some people, are successful on the civilian side. And the military, not for everybody, but some people, they join the Army because they try to get rid of the gang life and the bad family life, upbringings, drugs, whatever, and they turn around. But there's some guys in the Army just back into slanging dope, doing the bad decisions they made in the Army. They get kicked out, or DUI, doing drugs. It is what it is. This is the decisions you make in life, and it's hard work. It's not going to be given to you. Life is not easy, you know. Life is you got to work for it. So that's how we got to instill from our parents. And we thank them. They worked hard. Mom, 2-3 jobs. Dad, busting his butt, working all the time, and it's instilled in us. We got that determination. Like, okay, you go doubt us, we got you. And I know how we relate, Cole. Me, you, and Scott, the Laos community. You know, because we're so small compared to other ones. You know what I mean? Like Filipinos are everywhere. You know, every naval base, military. There's a lot of Filipinos that join the military. Every naval base, they used to recruit out mad Filipinos, right? I know Chicago around the area too. There's a big Filipino community. And growing up, I'm like, you know what I mean? It was too many of us. You know what I mean? You want to be the one in jail? The family's talking junk about you, gossiping, that no good drug dealer, gangster, blah blah. You want to be successful in life. And I'm glad me and Scott, and you, Cole, we're good Laotian ambassador role models that we could be successful. Our parents brought us to live the American dream, to be successful, and it's the decisions you make in life. If you made bad decisions like young, like I said, when I was at Iowa State, I dropped out. I turned it around, paid it off, learned my lesson. I'm about to get my bachelor's degree, and I'm an Army retired veteran, and I'm a personal trainer. I love what I do. You know what I mean? And I have a great family, and my kids are instilling my kids to be successful, just like Scott.
Awesome. So hey, John, we're gonna share the video that Scott has now.
Yeah, so we're going to close with a special message from Scott's parents, everybody. So Scott, we're going to go ahead and let you share that message.
Sounds good. Thank you.
ขอชื่อกูภายดาวงศ์ขอขอบใจต่อพี่น้องลาวที่มาตั้งถิ่นฐานที่สหรัฐอเมริกามหาวิทยาลัยเดรกพิเศษสุดแมนคำพันธ์ภายดาวงศ์ผู้เป็นแม่อ้ายน้องของลาวและลาวอเมริกันสปอร์ตฮอลล์ออฟเฟมที่ได้สนับสนุนให้กำลังใจตลอดมาต่อการเล่นกีฬาฝ่ายฟุตบอลในการศึกษาของโค้ชสกอตต์ไพราวงศ์จนได้รับปริญญาและได้กลายมาเป็นอาจารย์ฝึกสอนกีฬาฟุตบอลแต่การศึกษาอยู่ในโรงเรียนอุดมศึกษาอันนี้แม้นความฝันและความหวังของเราและพวกข่อยพ่อแม่ที่เป็นห่วงนำอนาคตของลูกหลานสืบต่อไป ขอบใจ
ขอขอบใจน้ำสมาคมที่คนลาวเขามีความสุขอยู่ กีฬาของคนลาวเขาให้มีชื่อเสียงเรียงนามอยู่ในอเมริกาสหรัฐอเมริกาที่ว่าเขาเป็นเผ่าคนลาวเป็นจำนวนน้อยอยู่ในสหรัฐแต่เขาก็ยังมีจิตใจสู้ต่อสู้ให้มีชื่อเสียงเรียงนามอยู่ในประเทศของเขาที่ว่าเป็นเผ่าคนลาวของเขาจำนวนหนึ่งที่ในสหรัฐอเมริกาที่ไปเรื่องกีฬาทุกอย่างก็ขออกเข้าใจแล้วที่ว่านี่อันนี้ก็เป็นพี่น้องคนลาวเป็นผู้สุขยุ่ส่งเสริมมันจึงเจริญก้าวหน้าที่ว่าของสังคมลาวเฮานี้ทุกอย่างขอขอบใจ
Awesome.
So, Co, you need me to translate that for you?
You might want to translate that to John a little bit.
I got it. I got the gist.
Got it. Huh? You got the gist of it?
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming on. We definitely appreciate it. It was a great story. We're glad that it could be told.
Oh, thank you, John and Cole. I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Hey, Cole, I didn't know there was a damn Olympia bodybuilder.
Thank you guys for what you're doing.
What was that?
I didn't know there was Olympia bodybuilder till you. You blend in like the other Asians. I didn't know that you're a Laotian. I think I seen you back in the days. In the bodybuilding magazine, Jack.
You didn't think what nationality you think I was?
I don't know. I remember seeing Chris Dim because back then everything was muscle mags, muscle fitness, a flex, and I seen you. But I'm proud to say there actually was a Laotian guy. I was in Mr. Olympia. You know what I mean? And you were a beast. Yeah, I know that.
Oh, thank you. It's funny. Me and Chris came up around the same time. It's just so weird back then, man. It's just so competitive. Like I think you guys grew up here in the Midwest, and like so did I. Yeah. But when I went out to California, man, I saw I sensed like a lot of division amongst the Asians, right? You had your Korean town, you had your Tokyo town, you had your Vietnamese there, and everybody was so, I don't know. They weren't as warm as, let's say, the people here from the Midwest. Yeah. Like we really embrace each other. We don't have, there aren't that many of us, But so like I was always scared to talk to Chris because I think I did a couple shows with him, but I was like, Chris, man, he came in, he was serious, man.
Diesel back then, I know, right? He was watching he was called Diesel back then. I saw him in front of the magazines, like, this dude's Cambodian. I remember the magazine. Man, this dude's 202 pounds looking like this, you know what I mean? Like, this dude's a beast. And I was just proud that he was Cambodian, that he can do it. And I'm proud that you're the first Laotian to do it, you know what I mean? But I think back to the West Coast California lifestyle mentality, they're so separate because of gang life, you know what I mean? It's that they're separated because they have their own cliques and areas. And California is so big, But you know what's funny? My years in the Army, I mean, so many islanders, Asians everywhere. And it comes down to all Asians eat rice with everything. We all eat crazy stuff too. You know what I mean? We all have we have similar cultures. Yeah. Laotians around the Buddhist culture. You know what I mean? The China, we all have our superstitions and similar backgrounds. You know what I mean? But it's gonna come down to this. I know this being in Korea and all that. Koreans think they're better than us. Japanese, the same thing. Laotians will think they're better than Cambodians, Vietnamese. But like I said, in Thai, whatever, Filipinos. But when it comes down to it, we're all Asian folks. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm married to Filipino. You know what I mean?
I definitely like to see that in the future, and maybe it's something that our generation can be a big influence for. Is that, man, we should have like our own little community, like center, right? Like I've never seen that. You see that in the Hmong culture. They got their own churches and they got their own community centers, and like, we don't have that, and it's sad. And I think it's probably our responsibility to have an influence on that and start, bring them like the Hall of Fame and this. It's about bringing us together. I didn't know about you being a pro football player. I didn't know about some of the other inductees, and it's like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah,
it was a lonely time. You had your brothers, Scott. I literally didn't have no support from the siblings, from the parents. The reverse, right? You said reverse discrimination, man. Like, man, my own friends or my own Laotian friends, like, what are you doing, man? Come out and party with us. What do you think you're gonna be something? You think you're gonna make it? But like Scott, like you said, man, that fueled my fire, man. That fueled my fire. So I needed that energy to come from somewhere. I wish it would have been more positive. If I could change anything in the past, and if I could do something for the new kids coming up, is let's give them a positive reinforcement. Let's give them positive fuel, because that anger and that negativity and I'll prove you wrong, and it made me angry, and I didn't like that part of me. But let's change that. Now now that we got the younger kids coming up, let's give them that positive love, that support. Man, you got to do it. We're proud of you. That's all we wanted. That's all we wanted, man. All I want from my parents was, I'm proud of you. That probably meant more to me than the bodybuilding titles. So, John, you got anything else to add?
No, that was a great interview, guys. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank y'all for doing what y'all doing for the Laos community, and John. You look with your daughters staying with college. I seen the pit thing.
Yeah.
They had a good football season. I saw that quarterback or something.
We were disappointed they didn't get the Heisman, but they had a great season, man. Yeah.
I know Dan Marino played there. I used to love Dan Marino with the Dolphins back in the day.
That's right.
Back watching the NFL days.
Good. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
This episode was brought to you by the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame. Visit us on the web at laoamericansports.com. That's LAO Americansports.com.